Okay, so picture this. June 4th, 1942, the Pacific Ocean. The USS Yorktown, an aircraft carrier, one of only 3 United States has left in the entire Pacific, is burning. Japanese dive bombers hit her with 3 bombs. Her flight deck, it's a crater. She's dead in the water, listing hard to port, and the captain has just given the order that no captain ever wants to give: abandon ship. The Japanese pilots report back: Yorktown is sunk. They got her. Except, here's the thing, she didn't sink. She floated. She floated through the night, and the next morning, a salvage crew actually boarded her, cut away everything they could, and they were actually making progress. They were saving her. And then, and this is the kind of insane part, a Japanese submarine found her. The story of the USS Yorktown is 3 impossible things in a row. And to understand how we got here to a carrier refusing to die in the middle of the Pacific, we actually have to go back 161 years to a quite different battle. Same name, same piece of dirt in Virginia. We go back to October 1781, Yorktown, Virginia. General Cornwallis of Britain has backed the British Army into a corner. And when I say backed him in, it was literal. He's on a peninsula. The French fleet has the Chesapeake Bay blocked. George Washington, well, his army is closing in from the land, and Cornwallis only has about 8,000 men. Washington has nearly twice that, plus the French. And for 11 days, if you've seen that episode, the Allied artillery just does not stop. They just completely pound Cornwallis. Yorktown wasn't the last battle of the Revolution in a military sense. After Yorktown, there was skirmishes here and there, but it was really the one that broke the British and their will to keep fighting. When the news finally reached London, the Prime Minister, Lord North, reportedly paced the room and said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here and making it up as you would, "Oh God, it's all over." And it was. The name Yorktown from that point entered American history. It was etched in place, and it was etched in the place where we won. The place where, for all intents and purposes, it did end. Now, as we fast forward about 155 years later, the United States, they're building a new class of aircraft carriers. They're naming them after famous American battles. And the third one that was built, it was called Yorktown, CV-5. She was launched in 1936. She was 809 feet long. She could carry about 90 aircraft. And by the time the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, she was one of the most important ships in the United States Navy. She was about to do 3 things that should have been impossible. Here's the first impossible thing. It's May, it's 1942, the Battle of the Coral Sea. It's the first naval battle in history where the 2 opposing forces and the 2 opposing fleets never actually see each other. It's all carrier-based and it's all carrier aircraft. Planes launching from ships, finding the enemy, attacking, and then turning back to reload. In the Coral Sea there, Yorktown is there. She's alongside the USS Lexington. On May 8th, Japanese planes find them both. A bomb, well, it punches straight through Yorktown's flight deck. Straight through, exploding 3 or 4 decks below. 66 men are killed. The damage is serious. It's not catastrophic, however. She can still steam, but it's serious damage. She limps her way back to Pearl Harbor, and when she gets there, the engineers take a look at the damage, and they give a pretty grim estimate. 3 months. She needs 3 months in dry dock to get repairs. Now, here's where it gets kind of crazy. Admiral Chester Nimitz, the commander of the Pacific Fleet, well, he doesn't got 3 months. The American codebreakers, well, they just intercepted Japanese communications, and they have figured out something really terrifying. The Japanese are planning a massive attack on a tiny atoll in the middle of the Pacific called Midway. If the Japanese take Midway, they can strike Hawaii with ease. So Nimitz, he needs every carrier he has. And right now, that's exactly 2 operational carriers in the Pacific, the Enterprise and the Hornet. Yorktown, well, it's sitting in dry dock, pretty much useless, with a hole in her flight deck. can't really launch planes with a hole in the flight deck. So Nimitz looks at the repair estimate. 3 months, he says. Then he tells them, you got 72 hours. 72 hours to fix an aircraft carrier that just got bombed. We go to May 27th, 1942. Yorktown, she limps into dry dock number 1 at Pearl Harbor. She's still smoldering at this point. There's a bomb crater in her flight deck. Her internal compartments are just a mess. I mean, can you imagine? This is an 809-foot vessel, and 1,400 shipyard workers descend on her. These 1,400 men and women, they work around the clock, no breaks at all. They weld steel plates over her flight deck hole, they patch bulkheads, they rewire entire electrical systems, and they don't even have time to test half of what they're fixing. They just kind of weld and pray and keep moving. This is the part that really kind of gets me about the whole thing. The damage was severe enough that the Japanese Navy, based on their intelligence, believed Yorktown had been sunk at the Coral Sea. They thought they were facing only 2 American carriers at Midway, not 3. That assumption that Yorktown was dead, well, that was about to cost them everything. 72 hours after entering dry dock, Yorktown steams out of Pearl Harbor. She's still carrying repair crews on board. Electricians are still literally running cables as she heads out to sea. She's leaking and she's heading straight for Midway. We get to June 4th, 1942. The Japanese fleet is 4 carriers strong. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. They've been running the Pacific for 6 months. They took the Philippines, they took Singapore, the Dutch East Indies, and quite frankly, they're not really expecting a fight. What happens next, though, is chaos. American torpedo bombers find their fleet first, and they get absolutely torn apart. But while the Japanese fighters are down at sea level, chasing the torpedo bombers and just tearing them to shreds, the dive bombers, well, the dive bombers arrive. Just real quick, if you're enjoying these stories, hit subscribe. Helps out the channel. And this is a series that's just starting today. This is episode number 1. The Yorktown is the first of the carriers that won the Pacific. All right, now back to the battle at hand. Wade McClusky. Remember that name. McClusky, well, he leads a squadron of dauntless dive bombers from the Enterprise. They've been searching for hours. They're pretty low on fuel, and then a lone Japanese destroyer, they see it. It's racing north. McClusky, he has an instinct, so he follows it. And at 10:20 a.m. approximately, he looks down and sees the Japanese carrier beneath him. Flight decks are full of bombs, fuel lines, they're everywhere spread around, and they're rearming their planes. In 6 minutes, 3 carriers, the Akagi, the Kaga, and Soryu are burning. But the 4th carrier, Hiryu, is still out there, and she's about to find Yorktown. Now, Yorktown's radar picks up the incoming Japanese planes, and her fighters scramble. Her anti-aircraft guns, if you can imagine it, they open up and they're blasting the skies, but Hiryu's dive bombers, somehow they still break through. The first bomb hits the flight deck, and the second bomb goes straight down the smokestack and explodes in the boiler rooms. This knocks out 5 or 6 of her boilers. The third punches straight through the flight deck and explodes below. Yorktown is dead in the water. Fires, well, they're raging, and smoke is pouring out of her. She's listing 26 degrees to port. Captain Buckmaster, and this is not a decision anyone makes lightly, finally gives the order to abandon ship. So what happens is the crew goes over the side, and they're picked up by the destroyers that are in the area. From the destroyer decks, they watch helplessly as their ship is burning and it's listing, and it's all alone. They assume she's gone. But here's where it really gets crazy. The fires, well, they start to go out. The list somehow stops getting worse, and when the sun comes up on June 5th, the Yorktown is somehow still afloat. So a salvage crew, about 170 men, they board her. They cut away everything they can to reduce the weight. They push damaged planes over the side. They put out the remaining fires. A destroyer, the USS Haman, ties up alongside to provide power and to provide pumps. Incredibly, they're making progress. By the middle of the afternoon, on June 6th, the list, well, it's gone down. They're pumping out water. They think, and they genuinely think this, and why wouldn't they? They might save her. This ship is an amazing ship, and she survived a lot. And then the Japanese submarine, which has been hunting for Yorktown for hours, slips past the destroyer screen. She fires 4 torpedoes. One of them, unfortunately, hits the Haman, and the Haman breaks in half and sinks in under 4 minutes. 80 men go down with her. 2 of the torpedoes then hit the Yorktown. And the Yorktown, the ship that had already been bombarded at the Coral Sea, patched together in 72 hours to return to service, abandoned at Midway, reboarded, and still does not sink. Well, not right away, if you can believe that. She still floats through another night, but finally, on the morning of June 7th, 1942, 3 days after the battle, 2 attacks later, after everything, she rolls over and she goes down. The name that helped win the revolution went down at the most decisive naval battle of World War II. And here's the thing, all 3 American carriers at Midway were Yorktown-class ships. The name, well, it didn't just show up on one carrier. It defined the fleet that won the Pacific. They were different wars. They were different ships, but they were all the same class. And the Hornet, she had a namesake too. A War of 1812 sloop of war that survived battle after battle, only to vanish in a storm with all hands lost. But that's for next time, so we'll get to that on the next episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, I ask you again, hit subscribe for more untold stories that are coming your way. And as always, I want to wish you a great day, a pleasant evening, and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.